Welcome to the French Newfie. I'm Erin MacDonald. Today I'm going to be making eggplant parm, and it's going to be a little bit different than the traditional way to make it. I'm going to be baking it, and of course that's going to use less fat. So first things first, the eggplant. Some people are a little intimidated by using eggplants because they don't know how to cook them. It really depends on where you're from. I know growing up in Newfoundland we didn't have eggplants readily available, so it was foreign to me. But I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful eggplant parm. So what first you want to look for is, of course, a nice eggplant with firm skin. You don't want to see any brown spots, so make sure there's no brown spots or any soft spots. And even better yet, if you can find them in season, perfect. So what you want to do is just chop off the top, chop off the head, and then same thing with the bottom. Take off the bottom. And just going to cut it into cylinders, little circles, just like this. And some people like to peel the eggplant as well, but I'm going to be soaking mine in some salted water, and that actually helps the skin to become soft, and I just like to keep the skin on. If you want to take it off, feel free to take off the skin. Just little cylinders like this all the way back. Not too thin, because you want them to hold up in the oven. And to the other ingredients that we're going to be adding, there you go. Perfect. So as I said, once this was done, I have taken them and put them into a bowl of water that I salted, and you can see that the water is now turning a little bit brown and it's salted, and that's going to take away some of the bitterness, because there is a little bit of bitterness in the eggplant on its own. This is going to take away from that. So what I'm going to do now is, because these are already soaked for an hour, is I'm going to drain them onto the paper towel. So you want to take them off just like this and put them onto the paper towel. While they are draining, I'm going to move on to the rest of the ingredients, and we're going to get started. As well, I have my oven preheating at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to get it nice and hot so that they don't take too long in the oven, and we want them to be a little bit crispy, and of course the cheese to be melted. And because I'm not going to waste, I'm going to take these and put them back into the salted water so that way I can use it for another batch. And just get that off to the side. What I've done earlier as well was I took cover to one of my pots and put it on top, and that's going to ensure that they get submerged into the water, just like that. Okay, so while these are draining, I'm going to do a couple more things that we need to get the process going. And because I'm going to be breading them, we need to have our basic breading station, which is the breadcrumbs, flour, and eggs. So I'm going to get my eggs beaten. I have 2 eggs. Just crack them off to the side so you don't run the risk of getting any shells down into your bowl. And if you do, you can always pick it out. There you go, 1 and 2, perfect. And then gently whisk it till it comes together. Just 2 eggs, no milk, no water, just the eggs. And we're going to season it with a little bit of salt, like that. Mix that up. And I already have the seasoned breadcrumbs. You can buy seasoned, you can buy Italian, you can buy plain breadcrumbs. These are seasoned. If you just have the plain, you should try and season them. Maybe put a little bit of oregano into it, some salt and pepper, and then it becomes seasoned breadcrumbs. And as well, I'm going to add a little bit of salt to my flour, just like that. Perfect. And now what we're going to do is bring over our dish, our tray for baking them in. And it's just a see-through dish. You want something that's a little bit deep because we're going to be layering the eggplant. So now with a spoon, I have some crushed tomatoes, and I like to keep them crushed but a little bit chunky, and this is for texture and as well flavor. So try not to get the pureed ones, get the chunky ones. And oops, first a little bit of olive oil down into the bottom like that, just to make sure that nothing is sticking. and take some nice chunky tomatoes down. And as well, this one has some basil into it, and it's great. I mean, I'm going to be using fresh basil, so if you want to use a basil or oregano type sauce, chunky sauce, that's good as well. And just move that off to the side. We're going to be using more later. And now we're going to start dredging, because these have drained onto the paper towel and there's not so much water. So we're going to first get it into the flour, the seasoned flour. And the reason you want to put it in the flour first is so that the egg will stick. So flour first, just like this. And just dust off any excess flour with your hands, because it's only for the purpose of the egg to stick. We don't need a lot of flour. And then into our egg, and you can see now that the egg is sticking to the eggplant. And then straight down into the breadcrumb and push it a little bit, just like that, and then over again. Really nice, down pat. And then into our little plate, our little tray with the tomato sauce. And now we're gonna do a few more. Again, down into the flour, dust it off, into the egg, into the breadcrumbs. I'm gonna do a few more, and then we're gonna put it into the oven. And now what I'm going to do is just add a couple of other little things to it. We're going to add some cracked black pepper. And you want to layer as you go. You want to season as you go into this. So just like this. Really nice. And it's eggplant parm, so you have to have some Parmesan cheese. Some nice Parmesan cheese, just like that. Some recipes actually leave the Parmesan out, but I don't know why you would do that. So get some nice Parmesan and some oregano. Some really nice oregano is delicious in this. And a little bit of the mozzarella cheese. Not too much, because we don't want it to burn. And we're going to be taking it back out in 25 minutes. So into the oven, I'm gonna turn it down to 375. We're gonna let this go for 25 minutes, take it back out, layer some more, and you're gonna see how delicious and bubbly and good this can be. Right, so now 25 minutes have elapsed, and I can smell the Parmesan, I can smell that beautiful tomato sauce. We're gonna get it out and start layering on the yummy toppings. Wow, look at that, perfect. It's bubbling away. The cheese is not overdone. We didn't want the cheese to burn. So, a couple more things. Now we're gonna start layering with all that goodness. Again, we're gonna go back in with just a little bit of salt, like this. We're gonna go in with some more Parmesan. Let me bring it closer. Be careful not to touch this at all with your skin or your hands. Remember, it's really, really hot, bubbling hot. Be generous this time, because we're only going to be putting it back into the oven for 10 minutes. Now we're going to go in with some fresh basil. And I wanted to leave that to the end, so that way the basil doesn't turn too brown. It doesn't look very attractive when it's brown, and you want it to have some nice freshness. Just tear the leaves very simply like this and scatter it down on top of that beautiful baked eggplant Parmesan. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to taste this later with a nice glass of red wine. And now we're gonna go in with the shredded mozzarella. Some people like to actually use the fresh mozzarella instead. And the reason I don't like to use the fresh mozzarella for this recipe is that it holds a lot of water, and then you end up with a lot of water in your dish. And don't get me wrong, I love fresh mozzarella, but for this recipe, you should just choose the shredded mozzarella. So be generous with this. Go down over it. We want a really nice mozzarella crust, and we're not using noodles, we're not using meat. It's not like a lasagna, so don't feel too guilty about using a little bit of extra cheese. And now we're gonna go in with, again, some nice cracked black pepper. And a final sprinkle of oregano down over the top. And just a dollop of some more crushed red tomatoes, like that. It's gonna be so good. Okay, and now as I mentioned, we're gonna get it back into the oven. I'm cranking the heat back up to 400, 10 minutes. When it comes out, I'm gonna show you how beautiful it is on a plate and ready to go. I hope that you give my eggplant parm a try.